Hello and welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome to this webinar this afternoon where we want to talk about Xray and how to maximize the agile effect of Xray. My name is Anne, for those who don't know me, and Kramer. I'm Global Customer Success Manager at Smart Testing. In my prior business life, working life, I was a project manager, team lead, process consultant, trainer for a German service provider. Now I'm working for Smart Testing, and to set the focus here. Just a few words, I will say a few words on smart testing. I always try to vary a little bit so that it stays interesting for those who know smart testing already. Smart testing is a French tool vendor, pretty well known in France, maybe a little bit less on the international stage. And today I want to talk about smart testing's mission, because we have a mission. We want to help our customers to test what really matters. And for that, we have two products in our portfolio, Jest and Gravity. And they are pretty different because it depends on where you are in this DevOps infinity circle, what really matters when you want to test. If you are to the left side, you are in the development part. You would think about new features, you implement them, you want to test them as thoroughly as possible, taking into account the different business aspects, but also error scenarios, etc. And you don't want to test this in a comprehensive, but not too exhaustive way, because you don't want to have too many tests if it is not necessary. This is the realm where we are talking about today with Jest, our product flagship product, a real development environment for tester, helping them to become more agile and working in a visual approach with visual ATDD. If you're to the right-hand side of this infinity sign, then we are go into operations. We are in the productive environment, and when we push a new software version to the productive environment, what really matters in that case, what we really want to test is our regression tests. We want to make sure that we do not break anything. And for that, we want to have automated tests, few but very targeted tests that really test what is used most, because that's what, when it breaks, it's worse. And the idea behind usage-centric testing, which is a shift-right approach, is that you take information from the productive environment, from operations, and this information about usage of the application, you use them to judge whether your tests are good or not, and maybe even to create a new test from it. That's a separate product. And that's not at all the topic of the day. It's called Gravity, and if you're interested, you may go to our website.
And it seems that your voice is breaking for some people. Is it possible for you to change the source of the audio for you?
It should be better now.
Okay, let's go on, and we'll see
Yeah.
whether certain of the, whether Marlene, for instance, or Samuel have difficulties to understand you. Please,
Yeah.
Marlene and Samuel, if it is not better, please let us know.
Okay. So I have to say something, otherwise you can't judge. Yeah. The yeah. The topic today, as I said, is how to be agile and how to be even more agile using the typical agile tools like Jira and Xray. But before we really go into the topic, I want just a little bit technical aspects of this webinar. I don't want to talk and not listen. So let's communicate. And we have three possibilities to communicate. First of all, you find this. Yes, we get the slides later. No significant difference. I'm still with this. Yeah, that's normal. There's no difference. It did not take my new settings. So Now it should change.
Oh, yes.
We have prepared some questions we would like to ask you, and those are in the tab called polls. So Michelle will launch them when it's time. So please answer the polls. If you have questions yourself, you have the second tab, which is for the questions. We prefer having the questions in the questions part and the chat, use the chat tab for your thoughts and your comments, etc. Because in the chat, as you can see, you have we have also technical problems and other aspects. Your questions shouldn't get lost in between. Therefore, rather use the questions tab for your questions. And Michelle, don't hesitate to interrupt me if there are questions, because I will probably be not as attentive to that tab as I should be.
Of course.
Yeah, and don't hesitate to ask questions, yeah, and to interrupt me, both by writing and Michelle, you can just jump in.
I will.
Okay, so let's make a try. We have one poll, which is we talk about Xray, so it would be interesting for everybody, I think, to get an idea whether you are Xray user or not. There are three options to propose. Yes, for more than 3 years. Yes, but only recently. Not yet, but we plan to do so. And if you're not happy with one of those three answers, then please use the chat to tell us which tool you use instead, so that we get a little bit of an idea. I have to.
Thank you very much for your participation. That's nice.
I have to participate too, otherwise I won't see the answers. So if you want to see the answers, you have to participate. That's yeah. I guess it's not a bug; it's a feature. It's to force people to participate. Yeah, as far as I can see, currently it's yes, but only recently is half of them. 20% or 19%, not yet, but we plan to do so. 13% use Xray for quite a while now, and we have different answers in the chat. And there's one, Andreas, who's looking for tools, and the other one says it depends. It depends on the customer's environment. Okay, yeah, yes, but only recently is really 50%. Okay, thank you. So I have an idea how to present now. But before we go into Xray and how to work in Xray and how to use Yester together with Xray to improve, to be even more agile, let's have a little bit of a look at the context, at the agile context. And today everything is agile. What you can see if you have a look at this photo, it's this photo I took in Hamburg, and the traffic light and the stickers say Agile Bitch Club. So everything is agile nowadays. As you may also know, this webinar was first given in French by my colleague Elodie. And Elodie told a nice story in which she was working for a service provider some years ago. She was asked whether they also work agile, and to be sure to know what the customer meant by agile, she asked them. And the answer was, well, do you use Jira? But that's not really agile. I think we all agree on that, that having a tool like Jira or also a tool like Xray is not the core of agility. The core of agility is pretty much a mindset and different new roles, different methods, and of course also new tools. Especially those two, Jira and Xray, are quite popular in the agile world. But it's not using the tool that makes you change the habits of how you work. One of the very important aspects of Agile is that we have the new roles. In particular, we have the product owner, also sometimes called business analyst. Still, that's the person who knows best about what shall be implemented. Then we have the Scrum Master, at least in Scrum, and we have the team. Oh, in the beginning, we had only agile teams, and we did not even talk about agile testers. Then we learned, the community learned about the testers are equally important in agile environments as they are in sequential process models. We have new methods. For example, we play planning poker now to estimate, to do the effort estimation. And we have those methods like behavior-driven development, acceptance test-driven development. We have quite a lot of automation. That's also something that's very important in Agile. And what is really extremely important, and I haven't listed it here, but because it's the topic of my talk, that's collaboration. We have a close collaboration all together. We work for the same thing. We have also the whole team approach, everybody being somehow responsible for the entire success. And we have to talk to each other, or at least to exchange information, not necessarily in an oral way. This is collaboration. We really work together. We understand us together. And yeah, for that, we have tools like Jira. So in Jira, we have our requirements now called user stories, and we have commands in Jira, and everybody has access to it, and it is rather easy to see what is the status and so on. But still, even having all that, there are some questions that remain. For example, test automation. Should I automate everything? How do I automate? How do I manage to have automation as soon as possible? How can I reduce the number of the effort I need to spend to maintain my test scripts, especially if I automate it from the beginning? Second question is, for example, documentation. In the beginning, the first reaction was a bit that Jira is or being agile is equivalent to no documentation. We rapidly learned that this is not really a good idea. That we need some documentation. But how do we could document? And is it really a documentation of our system if you have a product backlog, which user stories that may override each other? What is the best way to document what the system does? Then we have the test-driven approaches. So we have acceptance test-driven development, writing acceptance tests first and taking them as a detailed specification. The most well-known representative of ATDD approach is behavior-driven development, where I write test scenarios in a specific syntax, the given when then, or so-called Gherkin syntax, which is also rather easily automated, or at least constitutes a bridge to test automation. But is BDD the thing I should do, the approach I should choose? And is it good for all levels of testing levels? So that's something we can question ourselves on it. Do we really collaborate? And how can we improve this? And last but not least, traceability. Traceability is a very powerful tool. If we have traceability between requirements, or nowadays user stories and test cases, it allows us to have metrics on coverage. We can do impact analysis, but traceability is also something that is quite difficult to do and to maintain. So are there better ways of establishing traceability than doing it manually? That's a bit the question. Did I get it? What's your what are the topics you are questioning yourself on? Why are you in this webinar? Is it more test automation? You can check several things, or documentation. Are you thinking about using BDD or ATDD? And or is it the collaborative work aspect? Is it traceability, or is it something else? Again, for those who are not happy with it, use the chat.
The poll is open and you can respond. It's always better to have an interactive webinar, and since there are a lot of people today, we cannot open the mics. but pause is a good one.
Someone recognized the Agile Witch Club. Or at least the sticker. Yeah, it's Santa Kai in Hamburg.
Okay, test automation seems to take the lead as usual, I would say. It's unresolved topic, challenge.
Yeah, 30%, 31, followed by traceability, collaborative work, and documentation. The test-driven approaches are less get less answers. And we have in the chat methods of using Xray tips and tricks. Okay, and okay, yeah. Hope for some advice using Xray in sprints and across sprints. That's not it's not a webinar where I explain how to use Xray. It's a webinar where I explain how to use Xray in an enhanced way, let's say.
I think.
Okay, so let's continue. Maybe you will like it nevertheless. Yeah, if we speak about Xray, Xray is a test management tool. It's an add-on for Jira. It is quite popular. You can create test cases in it. You can create test plans, test sets, you have the test execution. You get reports from it, and it is one of the big advantages of Xray is that it is directly in Jira, so that you can establish traceability between the user stories and see whether how good your coverage is of the tests. But it's not really a collaboration tool. I mean, in Xray, the test steps, you have test steps and expected results, and this looks pretty much like a manual testing also. And this is not really fun to discuss about the collection of actions and expected results. It's not very easy either, because you already have the problem with the user stories that they are so small that they fit in a sprint, and so it's a defragment. The system is somehow defragmented, and with the test cases, it's even worse, because a test case may, especially if they are short, they cover just one aspect, and you may have several test cases per user story. So this is it is difficult to keep the overview of what you already test and what you have not yet covered, just looking at the actions and expected results. The second one is the coverage and traceability. It's possible to create coverage links between test cases and other Jira issues, and this is something this is really, really powerful. Still, you have to do the linking. You have to maintain the links, and maybe it can be simpler. Then, if you use Xray, you can use Xray together with BDD. You can write your tests in Xray as Gherkin scenarios, and then use, for example, Cucumber to execute them. If you do that, you are probably on the user story level, because that's what BDD is really targeting at, the acceptance test, but acceptance tests replacing the acceptance criteria of individual user stories. So is this the right level of detail of what you want to test? Because if you want to have system tests, or even end-to-end tests of your entire functionality in a row, then this maybe you're not too happy with BDD. Then how can you maintain your tests? I'm not sure whether you encountered this problem, but when you have a sprint, the sprints are usually rather short. And if you have to update your existing tests and you have to create new ones, then probably will have to concentrate on something, and this will be the new ones. And then you soon get a history of tests which will still work or not, and your tests are your test basis is growing and growing. And this may address one of the questions you have when you have a sprint in Xray. Then you have the user stories, you plan for the sprint, and you write test cases for the sprint. Then if they are automated, they go into the regression test suite, and if they are manual, you forget about them. You will concentrate on the next in the next sprint. But maybe it can be done differently. And last but not least, are we able to automate within the sprint, knowing that we have to update the scripts and we have to update the implementation of this of the functions that are called by the scripts, especially in a keyword-driven approach, we have the separation of the script and the implementation of the keywords. So what we propose is that you have a look at another add-on in Jira, which is Yes for Jira, because this is the one that we think will make the use of Xray easier and the work with Xray more collaborative. And instead of showing slides, I'd rather show how this looks like. This is a Kanban board. Just I don't know whether you work with sprints or with Kanban, but this is the way you probably know, and you are probably working currently. You have your stories, and for the stories you have a description, you have some information. Maybe you have BDD scenarios that you added as acceptance criteria, and then you decided to implement them. And when they are done, they go into the column done. But you have those single items, and for each of those items you have your tests. What we propose is that you have a look at the Yes for Jira add-on, and it's free. Yeah? It's you can download it from the Atlassian Marketplace. This is the Atlassian Marketplace. Just type Yes here, say Yes to test, Yes, and then you can download it. It comes with the documentation how to configure. And what Yes for Jira does, it creates a new issue type. New issue type, which is called Yes workflow. So now when we create an issue, I hope you can see my mouse, because when I did yeah, there are several mouses. So when you create an issue to the bottom left of my screen, you select Yes workflow, say it's demo. What you get is a visual editor. You get the possibility, you get a new issue, Yes to workflow, and this comes together with an editor, a very simple graphical editor. As you can see, the palette is really not large. You have the possibility to add tasks. You have the possibility to add sub-workflows, decisions. You can also switch to task or switch to a choice point or switch to an endpoint, for example. It feels a little bit like Draw.io. Can also do it like that. And the idea is that you start with your stories. So I go back to my board. You start with your stories, and if you have a look at those stories here, we talk about a travel request and an application where you can create travel requests in. Then someone has to review the travel request and will accept or reject the travel request. Then the person goes abroad and comes back, has spent some money in for the taxi, for example, does a refund request. Once again, the refund request can be accepted or rejected. And there are other user stories that go with it. For example, before accepting a refund request, I want to see the receipts. so that I only reimburse what is really relevant expenses. Or before I ask to go abroad, I have to provide some information. For example, where I'm going, how long I want to go, whether I need a hotel, etc. Full screen mode, you can pin my my screen. You can close the chat or the polls. This is already making the screen larger, but you can also go on my on the screen sharing on the not my camera, but the screen sharing, and still on stage. Somehow can you still hear me? Can someone write in the chat whether you can still hear me? Because yes, okay. So because I got a message that I'm no longer on stage. Yeah, and we lost Michelle, I think. Interesting. So I hope you can decipher what I have on my screen. I can also zoom in. This is also possible. So my application is a travel request application, and what I wanted to tell is that when I start with a new workflow, I think about all of those stories. So, for example, I know that I will have a travel request to do. Then I know that the travel request has to be approved. So we have travel request approval. We know that there will be a decision because we don't know whether it is approved or not. And let's keep it simple. So we have them linked together, and in case it is rejected, in that case we have a new an endpoint rejected. And if it is approved, then we continue with a refund request. So now this is wrong. This is rejected, not approved. Rejected, and this one is approved. And we have the refund request approval, or refund approval. And in the end, we will get some money, so there will be the reimbursement. That's the good case. Okay. So those are the thoughts the product owner will have, and then we start discussing on this information. I save this, and I can even enter here a comment and tell the person I want to ask to have a look on it, that the person may have a look, should have a look, and then we start discussing. We start discussing in our, for example, our 3 Amigos workshop, where we say, well, that's not correct. There's something missing. In fact, there's something missing, a very important missing. We won't reimburse refund requests which are not correct. So we have another decision here. If all the receipts are, if it's justified, then we will get the reimbursement, and in the other case, we have another error situation where it is it has to be modified. Request modify, because we will probably not say just no, we will not reimburse you the taxi. It was just that there was the receipt missing. So if you got problems like that. This is the way how we collaborate. If I change this, I save this and I go back into to Jira, I exit the editor. Then you can see my demo workflow is now available, similar to the user stories, similar to all the other issues in Jira. If I have access to the Jira, I also have access here. I can also go in and link to the user stories. So I can associate Jira issues. For example, I should take from my my project. I take the travel request. I think that's also the correct one. So I can have this link to the Jira issues. And this is the basis for collaboration. This is also the system documentation. It makes much easier to understand what we want to test. And there's the link also to Xray, because this is also the basis for our test design. What we describe here is the way we want to test our system. It's not necessarily the business flow, how the system is created. It's not BPMN. It's not a process description, which could be taken into the manual of the system under tester. It is really, this is how we want to test and what we want to test. And the very important basis for documentation. Other questions? Because I'm looking a little bit on the time. We said a half an hour, but that was a little bit an error. We wanted to say three quarter of an hour, but I don't want to. I don't want to cut questions if there are questions.
No questions for the moment, and you can go on.
Okay, I will show you. I will not go too much into detail what Yes does, but I will show you the link, because then we come back to Xray. So when we continue, we have a nice workflow which may look like this in the end. We have our travel request with the approval. This is the layout is nice. We have some coloring. We have some additional information we provided, and this is synchronized with the tool called Yester, and in Yester we see the same thing. And here we add information on what we really want to test. So here comes the acceptance criteria of the user story. So, for example, a travel request has to be can be up to 5 days or more than 5 days, and it can have a certain costs. And depending on that, I have to enter the value, and then depending on that, it is either approved or rejected. So this is the way how we put the information what we want to test in detail in the graphical workflows, and then Yes allows me to generate scenarios from it. So the output looks like that. I will do a screenshot to zoom in, because I know that some of you may have problems to see it. So to the left here, you have the scenario that is generated. And to the right, you have the workflow coverage. So we see that this is really the good case where we come to the reimbursement. Whereas if I select another scenario, this one here with the travel request too expensive, you can see we will not even go until the refund request. We stay with the travel request. Once again, this is synchronized with Jira and also with Xray. So we can publish our tests in Xray. For that, we have we create a publisher, and in the publisher we can use all the features of Xray. So, for example, we can say we want to reuse an existing test plan. So if we want to reuse an existing test plan, we just have to check this. And in my Xray, I have a test plan. So make sure this one here, or rather, let's look at the. I have a repository here, so I have also the possibility to have, for example, the tests for this sprint in a repository. I called it demo import, but it could also be sprint N, for example, the name of this repository. And I have a test plan where I collect all my tests in. And in Jest, I say I want to reuse this existing test plan, and I can select it. I've connected to, of course, I have to log in first. I can connect to this test plan, and now my test scenarios are published to Xray. So to show you how this looks like in Xray, I will just show you the result. The tests are published like that. So you have your steps. And when you click on it, you also have the expected result. This is what you normally have in Xray. But this is not what you discuss now on it. You will not use the different tests to see whether you have really covered everything you wanted to cover. What you do is you go to the workflow, and then you have a look at the design coverage. You see, okay, your tests are all compliant with the workflow. And you can also see the execution coverage, for example. Once I've executed my tests, they have a result. And I can even see in the workflow here which of them, zoom in so that you can see it better, which of them are passed. So this is the one, the case where I get the reimbursement. This case is passed. That's already a good thing. But there we have problems, for example, here. And I can see it was the rejection that had a problem. And because this one with the time was okay, but it was too expensive. This one caused problems. So you have a visual way of how to discuss your test results. And this makes it much easier to understand, to keep the overview. And yeah, you also have the linkage to the Jira issues. Because in Jest, I can say, I can even for specific tests, I can say here, I want to link to this user story. This is easy with drag and drop, but as I said, I don't want to show too much Jest. I wanted to show how it looks like, this collaboration looks like in Jira. So I'd rather talk about Jest for Jira, the add-on you can download for free. Okay, I think I did most of it. Let's have a look at our slides. Go back to the slides. We were there. So what I showed you is that instead of having the product backlog with all those and the test plans with all those individual small objects, you have a visual overview, which is a living documentation. This is due to the fact that in fact we do a model-based testing approach. We update the model and then we update this updates the test cases. But the very important part is that it is directly in Jira and that you have linked it to user stories. I did not show too much how there's a link to automation and traceability. As I said, this is a separate topic. But just to tell you that if test automation is your topic, and we saw that test automation is an important topic, it can be done also because in Jest you can also create your scripts, and you create your scripts not manually. you create them by generating them. All you have to do is to find a mapping between the tasks and the keywords you want to call. So this is a Cypress example here. This is a directly generated output from Yester. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to show. I did probably not address too much how to use Xray, because I rather focused on how to improve Xray. There are ideas coming into my mind. Yeah, maybe just this one. We have a common success story with Xray. If you take this link here, I think I can also copy it and put it into the chat. We have a common success story with Xray because Allianz IT France is one of our very happy customers, I would say, very ready to communicate about how they use Xray and Yester, and that's we got a recent confirmation by them that the two together really make a change. Okay, let's discuss. I wanted to up to half an hour, but it's really difficult.
So please do not hesitate to ask questions in the question tab to Anne. That's the moment when you can express your concerns, questions, doubts. If something was not clear enough. So as you could see, yes, Xray is a good test management tool in Jira, but it does not cover all the aspect of the agile testing, and
well, it helps you to manage your tests, to get reports, to keep the overview of what has been executed and what remains still to be done, to plan your tests. But it is not. I mean, this test design, the moment where you really conceive your tests, this is still in the head of the testers. And this is where this visualization and the possibility to with Yes for Jira to describe the tests as workflows comes in.
Yeah, that's really the power of visual representations to trigger collaboration, discussions, sharing, and this regardless of the profile of the different stakeholders of the team. So with the graphical representations, the visual representations, the business analysts are comfortable, the product owners are comfortable, the developers are comfortable, and obviously the testers are comfortable. So they can really discuss and collaborate on what must be tested in the next sprint.
If ever you've written a long test specification and tried to find someone to review them, and then you came back again with a second version, you know how reluctant people are to have a look again at the entire thing. They just look at the changes. And that way also you lose a little bit the overview of how everything works together. And also there's one aspect which is in the success story, the testing becomes more visible. I mean, it's not just some small hidden items that are somehow linked to the user story, and we avoid to look at and hope they become green. It's really something that helps me understand what the system does. And as it is used to describe, to generate the tests, it should be up to date. and it improves with each sprint. So you have really this living documentation aspect. And when the project is finished and you put the product backlog to trash because you no longer need it, you still have the visuals and your information of the acceptance criteria, which are behind and in the scenarios to know what was really expected, what was the system doing in that version.
Okay, and there are no questions. It seems that you have been extremely clear. So, but we have questions on our side, and we would like to have a feedback on this webinar. So again, I'm going to launch a poll, so you can tell us your feedback about this this webinar. Because we want to improve always and to give you the best information possible. So I have just launched a new poll, and I would be very pleased and very glad and very grateful to you if you could respond to this. And I'm going to send another one. Okay, so another poll, so two other polls. And again, please take the few seconds required to respond, because this would be very, very helpful to us. So, and do not hesitate to critique us. You know, we take also the bad remarks, because it helps as well, even if we don't like it as much as the good ones, of course.
45 seconds was too short to convince. Oliver, no problem. Just write me an email. I'll show you for 1 hour or even longer.